Hey, I want to thank you for joining us on this edition of Polk Place. I'm Brian Lacey, and got a first-timer in the studio with us. Hasn't been on Polk Place, but from the Polk Transportation Planning Organization. His name is Tracy Mullen, Senior Planner with the Polk Transportation Planning Organization. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So talk to me a little bit about what the Polk Transportation Planning Organization does.
Well, the Polk Transportation Planning Organization collects business intelligence. Basically, it collects information from various organizations such as Florida Department of Transportation and Federal Highways and puts it into different documents, which are then passed along to the different organizations in Polk County that deal with safety, deal with building and fixing highways, and we take a long-term look at the 20-year high-level look at where growth is going to be in Polk County, and we advise organizations on how to build transportation out to meet multimodal transportation, not just not just cars and trucks, but also bicycles and pedestrians.
And that's one thing that we're really doing around here is a lot of the bicycle lanes, a lot of the safety features, and then something that you guys have a direct hand in. Talk to me a little bit as a senior planner. What is it that you do then?
Well, my job is to deal with safety aspects of roads and any other conveyance of transportation. I mean, we're looking down the road here at aircraft and that sort of thing, drones and those sort of things. But currently, we're doing investigations into the amount of road crashes and where people get hurt. We have over 1,200 crashes every year in Polk County, and we had 103 people killed last year on the roadway system. We want to bring that down to zero. We would say you shouldn't lose your life just coming home from work or going for a walk.
One of the things that we heard in the intro was the Vision Zero program, and kind of reiterate a little bit about it, what it is, and about especially, driving home from work or just, maybe driving home from dinner, one thing or another. Talk about the safety aspect and why we need it within Polk County.
Well, Vision Zero is an international program that started in Sweden, and they were getting the amount of deaths on their highways down. We need it in Polk County. As I said, we had 103 people killed last year. Basically, what Vision Zero does is we examine where there has been collisions. We take a look at it, and we take the premise that people make mistakes, and they will get hurt. But sometimes the mistakes were made years ago when roads were engineered, or they were engineered as farm roads, and now they're major transportation roads, and we have just had to keep up with the growth. We've paved roads, but what was a road that was built in the 1920s when cars only did 40 miles an hour, a curve coming around a lake was perfectly safe. And now that you're driving 60 miles an hour around that same curve, that curve could now be under-engineered and dangerous. So we're trying to identify those places and retro-engineer them to make them safer so people can, and again, bicyclists where they can be seen, pedestrians where they have sidewalks where they can walk.
From a data standpoint, where does that data show that that holds the most dangerous areas?
Well, we just completed with one of our consultants a high impact network document which evaluates all of the roads in Polk County. We look at the roads where there have been the most deaths and serious injuries, and now that we have those noted, we can go and start applying a different methodology to see if we can see if it's an engineering problem, if it's a people problem, where the problem lies, and how we can fix it. And that's the important thing, is addressing the problem, not just identifying it.
What specific steps can be taken to reduce these crashes when you have this data all compiled?
Well, once we've identified, and this is something we're currently doing with the Vision Zero program, we're working on 5 different intersections and road segments. We have talked to people in the community, because often people in the community have a better idea of what the danger is, rather than looking at this, an engineering firm looking at this from an aerial photograph. People that live there and work in the area can identify the problem for us. And then we go in and we can do what's called tactical urbanism. We do maybe put some cones out on the side of the road to see if narrowing the road would help things. If we freshly paint an intersection, maybe the paint is not good and people can't see where pedestrians are crossing. We can take a look at different types of road lighting or different sequences to allow pedestrians to cross the intersection a little quicker, or delay other traffic and slow it down so people don't interact with moving vehicles.
From our state of the county over the past 2 years, County Manager Bill Beasley has talked about Polk County being one of the fastest growing counties, areas, not only in the state of Florida, but in the United States. Now, how much is this population growth, how much of that affects the accidents that happen?
Well, as you know, 30, 40 years ago, Polk County was a rural county. Now it's becoming very, very urbanized, and roads that were developed and built for rural farm equipment, for moving trucks and transportation goods, are now being inundated with, we're getting 30,000 people a year moving into Polk County. That's a lot of traffic coming on the roads and into intersections that they weren't designed for. We've had to quickly move and find ways to address the additional traffic coming in. That's why then of course, more people move into the county. There are going to be more interactions on the roadways. There are going to be more highway traffic deaths and injuries.
Well, another thing that the county manager stated was the reason a lot of people like this area is because of the safety factor. And of course, Grady Judd and everything that he's behind it. As far as enforcement goes, how can enforcement and law enforcement possibly curb some of these accidents?
Well, they've certainly make an impact. Looking at red light cameras, looking at having more drinking and driving interventions, ticketing, of course, speeding, that sort of thing. They've been very good, and actually there's a group of law enforcement officers throughout the county. It's just not the county sheriff's deputies, but they work closely with the local police as making a unified effort to help control some of these things like speeding and drinking and driving and just poor turning at corners, which is a very dangerous sort of a thing to happen. So enforcement is one thing. Engineering is another thing. And the third thing we look at is education. And that's part of what we're doing with Vision Zero, is letting people know how dangerous some practices are. Currently, we're letting folks know how dangerous e-bikes are, because they are a lot faster than the original e-bikes.
Wow. Yeah.
Now you have some of them that they're supposed to only go 28 miles an hour. Some of them get up to 50 miles an hour. And if you're not used to that, or are undereducated, or are not wearing a helmet, you can have a fatal accident very quickly, because the decision method that you have isn't quick enough to deal with the speed that you're traveling, or the speed other people are traveling close to you.
Tracy, one thing that the Transportation Planning Organization likes to do is get the community involved, whether they have the meetings, whether it's our online presence, whether it's surveys. Now, the Vision Zero is a chance for them to get involved. How can they get involved?
Well, over the last 6 months, we had a large meeting in Winter Haven that was open to the public to just explain some of the Vision Zero action planning process. We're in the midst of doing that. That plan should be finished by December of next year. But we're reaching out to the community through there's 2 online questionnaires you can go to. We had the 3 corridor meetings, one in Kathleen, one in Juanita, and one in Auburndale over March. We're going to be doing another presentation sometime in August. We haven't set the date and place yet, but it will be on the website. And we're always willing to talk to folks about go to meetings and explain what Vision Zero is and how we can work together as a community to make a situation where you're not going to get killed on the way home from work.
When it comes to Vision Zero, talk a little bit about the biggest misconception about it, if you would, please.
Well, the biggest misconception about Polk Zero is it's out to punish drivers, and that's not at all true. What we're trying to do, enforcement, of course, is part of it, but enforcement has always been there. With Vision Zero, we're trying to get the community to work with us to identify dangerous situations and mitigate them. How do we stop this? How can we put in new lighting or crosswalks or slow traffic down? So we're trying to get folks involved in their own safety and things like wearing bicycle helmets and that sort of thing, actual safe practices. And we believe that people are the main way to avoid a collision are people being aware of the danger and acting accordingly.
At the end of the day, what does success look like? What's the definition of success when Vision Zero is presented to the folks?
Well, basically in the title of the program, Vision Zero, we are looking forward to a time in Polk County when no one is killed on the roadway. There are no serious injuries. This is a very aspirational. We realize that chances of that happening with almost 1 million people in Polk County is not great, but we can lower the number of people that are killed. It's appalling that we're losing over 100 people a year, that we're having 12,000 crashes a year. If we can get people to be more aware of their surroundings and keep an eye on things like not running a red light and not taking chances going around corners at a high speed and accidentally clipping a senior citizen who's crossing through a green light. It's on their walk, and sometimes they get hit in actual crosswalks. Just because someone's not been paying attention and has turned early, they may be looking at their cell phone, they may be turning their radio, but being distracted is what gets people hurt in crosswalks and roadways where it shouldn't happen. If folks would put down their cell phone, if they would be more aware of their surroundings, some of these things wouldn't happen.
We got just about a minute left, Tracy. If you would, inspire folks to get involved and let them know how they can get involved, if you could, please.
Well, we would really like folks to attend our public meeting that's coming up in August. You can give us your input. We'll be having some other organizations with us to give more information out, and maybe there'll be some gimmies out there. We would like you to go onto our website. We have an excellent website, lots of information there if you're trying to learn a little bit about safety. And like I said, attend the meetings. And when we come out in December with our Vision Zero action plan, help us enact it. We're looking for citizen volunteers who will help us educate the community to be more aware of their surroundings. Education and re-engineering dangerous areas, we would like to move that forward more than enforcement. We're, like I said, this is not out to punish people. We're out to fix things and make things safer for everybody, including the police officers. They don't like to spend their time writing out those sort of accident reports.
Well, I want to thank you for coming in and joining us today. Anytime that you have anything to promote from TPO, would love to have you come back. And especially give us some results in December when all this comes back. The chair is all yours. Please come back and see me, would you please?
We'll be happy to.
The Polk Transportation Planning Organization serves as Polk County's lead transportation planning agency, overseeing how federal and state transportation funds are directed to local projects through a continuing cooperative and comprehensive planning process. They're looking for your involvement for their Vision Zero Action Plan, seeking public input on traffic safety improvements that could benefit the community. Visit polkvision0.mysocialpinpoint.com to share your comments and ideas or suggestions. If you enjoyed that episode of Polk Place, I invite you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and even check out the next one.